Hello and welcome to OT, the podcast. We're here to talk about watches, time, and how to spend it. My name is Andy Green.
I'm the Felix Schultz. Andy, we have a special guest today.
Who is it? Because I just halfway forgot my name. Who am I?
Andy Green, Andy Blue. No, today we have a chat coming up in the second half of the episode with none other than Ricardo Guadalupe, the CEO of a little brand you might have heard of, Hublot.
Hublot. So they have a special place in your heart, as we kind of found out when we talked to Maxime.
I've got a lot of time for Hublot, and I think it's a bit contrarian of me. You know, a lot of people in the watch fam, air quotes, like to sort of be a bit harsh about them, but I think they've done a lot of great things for the watch world. So this interview, it's from a while back. It's from Watches and Wonders, but we talk a lot about art and Hublot's relationship with artists, as well as colour and what they do with that from a technical point of view. So I thought we'd sort of turn that into a little bit of a retrospective. You know, we're more than halfway in the year. Let's look back at some of the brighter releases. But before that, Andy, what have we got to do?
Well, I'll be joining the listeners for this one because it was just you on that call. So I'm excited to hear what you guys spoke about and whether it stands up. Stands the test of time, as they say.
It's got to be great. It's got to be the greatest OT content ever produced. Jeez.
It should be pretty good. You know, brand CEOs can be really interesting. The right brand CEO, as you know, we've had a few on now. They can be pretty entertaining, and I feel like Ricardo is going to be a good one. So I'm excited to hear it. But yeah, Felix, before we get into the meat of the show, got to talk about our Discord channel again. It's really been picking up over the last few weeks. It's, daily discussions taking place there. It's where the listeners, you guys, can get all of the news first. We're sort of sharing updates a little bit earlier there. We're taking on a lot of feedback.
Yeah, a bit of behind the scenes stuff, This is what Andy really thought of this watch. Yeah, we occasionally get into like
Discord beef.
I was sort of going with like couples arguments, like you and me, and like the Discord of our kids that are watching.
Yeah, you told me off the other day for giving away too many details on our limited edition watch that we have coming up.
Yeah, that's because everyone's getting disturbingly close to guessing what
people
it is.
People are very close to the answer, which is it's great. It means that they know us and they know the OT brand. But yeah, just this morning, off one of our dear listeners' suggestions, we started a thread which I called Good Decisions, and it's basically a place to talk about all of the decisions that we might have influence. And yeah, I feel like that's going to be a fun thread to be a part of.
And hopefully there's a few t-shirts popping up in there, Andy.
Yeah, well, on the topic of spending money, which is core to the show, we still have our pizza tees. The Felix and Andy's Pizzeria tees are available for pre-order for a few more weeks, so about 55 Aussie dollars, and I think it's like $5 to $10 shipping, depending where you are in the world.
Very reasonable shipping, Andy. I think we're going to be taking a loss on the shipping.
We're not making money on these, but that's fine. We just want to do it, so we'll sell enough to do it, and we'll ship it out. And Felix and I will personally be packing them. I'm working on some special packaging actually, which should be quite nice. Yeah, just like a nice little.
Are you going back to the old pizza shop that you managed, stealing a few boxes?
I did think whether we had like a special box made to ship them out, but I think that would be a little bit too impractical.
Yeah, that's
a bit too heavy, a bit too bulky, a bit too awkward to send. But no, it should be cool. I'm excited to see them because the artwork, which is lovely, and again, props to at Modern Thrills. Modern Thrills did a thrilling job. So yeah, that's been cool.
Before we talk about color, there's something else. I've just there's a link that's popping up all over my gram, my feed, because you've been spruiking it, and a collected man. You've been doing a little bit of writing over there.
Yeah. The listeners will know that both you and I write Collected Man Journal. This week just passed. My latest article went up. It's an interesting one. It was sort of, the brief was semi-familiar, but we had a bit of a different twist on it. So the sell was how watches end up in film. And I guess the premise for the article was we love watch spotting. As a watch community, we love spotting a watch in a music video, in a TV show, in a film. The screenshots go up into the Facebook groups, into the forums, and then everyone discusses, one, is it real? Is it their watch? How did it up in there? And so, I was tasked with sort of finding out
how that happens
over the decades. So, obviously start with things like the Bond films, move into like Steve McQueen and his famous Monaco in Le Mans. But I did the work on this one, man. Like I spoke to Leticia.
No one is surprised that you did the work, Andy. You're a very thorough and competent researcher.
This took, like, I'm lucky that I had about 5-6 weeks to do it, because there was like many a Zoom call to kind of dive into the different ways. So I spoke to Leticia Hershey from Caviar PR, New York based. Well, I think a couple offices now, but based in New York, I believe, who specializes in like luxury jewelry and watches. And she actually helped with the placement of a Bulgari in singer Zayn's music video. Probably like 3 years ago. It was the Octo Finissimo in the sandblasted gold.
Nice.
And so
that is such a hot watch.
yeah, such a hot watch. And it was one of those things like, how did that happen? And everyone's sort of like, is he a massive watch collector? You know, did they pay him? Right. And so actually hearing from sort of the PR side of things was quite interesting. I also spoke to Nick English, co-founder of Bremont. You know, their involvement in the first Kingsman film was pretty noticeable for me back in the day. I think it was 2014 when that came out.
And a really great coup for they were a very young brand at the time too.
Yeah, they were pretty. I think they've probably been around for like 7 years or something.
Yeah,
but to end up in a film like that and to have the limited editions that they did with it, I think they did a collection of like 3 watches that they still get asked about to this day. Like he was saying, yeah, people come into the store asking for the Kingsman watch, and they go in asking for that and probably leave with something else if they really like it. And I think the brand experiencing that at such a young point in their existence set them down this path, because if you know Bremont, you know that they're sort of very clever with their placements. So we also talked about Venom and Tom Hardy.
Yep.
And that's an interesting story because he's been like a friend of the brand for years and years and years. Just a friend, and by every meaning a friend. And Nick was sort of saying how he turned up to the filming of Venom just wearing like his blacked out Bremont.
Yeah.
And semi potentially kind of convinced the prop and costume department that it was a good fit. Like he actually really got kind of like pushed it into the film.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I always wondered that actually with like, say the big ambassadors, like say George Clooney, for example, and Amiga.
Yeah.
Does he and I'd love to see the contracts. Like if he's in a film that's any film, are there provisions there that if he wears a watch, it has to be an Amiga, and who has the right to, like if the director says, no, it's really important that you wear something else, like a different look or a different style, is it, and how does that, like, are there fees involved? Like where does the relationship sit in terms of the personal actors' commercial arrangements and a separate business entity, which is a film production? I just find it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, so what my takeaway, because I also spoke to Eric Wind, who's obviously we've had him on the show, we'll link that up. And a lot of his clients are A-listers, right? And so what I deducted from talking to all these different avenues was that if you see a legitimate, as in authentic luxury watch in film or TV, one, it's not an accident. Like it just doesn't accidentally happen. Prop departments prefer not to have them because you need like a lot. You'll need a mint condition one for close-ups. You'll need ones for stunt doubles. They're highly valuable. They're portable, and there's
stealable,
and there's hundreds of people walking around on set. So if it happens, it's very deliberate and thought out. Eric gave the example of Succession season 1. It really kind of grinded his gears because there were all these like horrible fake watches, and he actually kind of got in touch with the producer and really tried to like help them source watches or get legitimate watches in there that were better suited. And then he sort of noted in season 2 of Succession they'd clearly done a brand deal because I think everyone was wearing Cartier. So
sure,
it's official. But then he also had examples of some of his clients that are really passionate and work with him to kind of secure pieces when they think it's really important. So the characters might need vintage watches to reflect a certain era, and then they'll kind of go down that path. But yeah, it's certainly a really interesting topic.
I also think it's interesting. The other side of that is it's become so much more important, and it's that sort of post Mad Men era. I think that was the first one that sort of really pushed for authenticity in sort of props and sets because it was HD.
And I think Eric was involved with Mad Men, actually.
Derek Deere was way back in the day. I did interviews with him, so he was a guy. A Canadian watch dealer, I think. What you want, what you love, one of those ones.
Yeah.
And he supplied a bunch of
every season they changed. So yeah, they as the character kind of went through the season, his watches kind of got upgraded.
Yeah, and as the time went by, I think they were sort of, they were funky sort of late 60s Hamiltons at the end. And it was an interesting, but I think my point there was that that's when people started noticing that sort of stuff because the technology was there. And that's also the time when they worked out that James, Sean Connery's NATO strap in Dr. No wasn't actually grey and black because that's when the Blu-ray came out and they sort of found those extra lines of colour in it. It's interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's right. No, 100%. It's fascinating. It's actually, speaking of Hamilton, it was noted that they have a big stronghold on Hollywood. That's
Yeah,
why you
that's
see
their whole marketing spiel is that they're the Hollywood brand.
apparently they just like have ownership over the prop departments. And I guess it makes sense. Low end, you can get a box of like 50 and send it out, and yeah, you see them all the time.
But yeah, but also wait for like a long time, like Elvis, Marlene Dietrich.
Yep.
They've sort of, early on, they've had a lot of prominent sort of placements. Anyway, from Hollywood and the silver screen to rainbows. Where we chat in a few minutes to Ricardo Guadalupe from Hublot, and obviously we talk about color. And Hublot is a brand that excels at color,
100%.
not just in design, but also in the technical side, like in sapphire and ceramic. We sort of chat about that a bit, but it got me thinking, Andy. We've seen a lot of colored watches in 2021, and I think partially that's because it's been a pretty trying couple of years. Couple of years, he says, sighing. Thanks to Madame Rona, and I think people are looking for a little bit more happiness, maybe in their watches. No boring black dials for them. And I thought we'd come up with a little wrap list of some of our fave coloured pieces, and I'd like to kick it off if that's okay.
Please do.
Now, this, let's be honest, this also came up because I was tasked with writing an article on rainbow watches for Revolution, which is
recycled content.
Well, no, I mean, honestly, it's spurred other ideas, and I think this watch that I'm just about to talk about, I saw the press release when it came out, but I then had a closer look at it, and I am low-key in love with it. And if you can justify a $12,300 spend from the OT business account, what do you think? So I'm talking about the Chanel J12 Electro watch. Are you familiar with this?
I am. What a beautiful watch. I remember when this press release came through, and I think I just forwarded it to you. Obviously, we get the same releases, but I was like, man, this is cool.
But so it's not the cool thing for me about it is, so the J12, it's genuinely, I think, an icon in watchmaking. It's used a lot, but Chanel in 2000, I think they released it, was one of the first sort of all ceramic watches, like black or white ceramic bracelet and case, and every sort of, not Instagram then, but like all the tabloids and, the Hollywood it girls and models were wearing these, sort of then chunky, sporty looking ceramic watches. It's stuck around, and they've sort of evolved and refined it. Now it's got a movement in it that's an in-house movement made by Canisi, I think. That's the Tudor-owned operation. And this one has gradient rainbow bezel and hour markers. But it's not the only watch in the Electro series. It's a capsule collection, Andy, which means they've got everything. They've got like premiere pieces that are like have, ombre multicolored leather bits. There's a ridiculous fully diamond set piece, like the bracelet, the dial, the case. Everything is diamonds, except the case sides and the bracelet sides are all stone set in gradient stone. So that's where the rainbow is on the case side. I just think it's fun and it's cool and it's fashion.
Yep, the colors just really jump off against that black ceramic. I have really fond memories of Chanel. Actually, I've got a lot of time for their watchmaking department. I remember my first Baselworld, Felix. You and I, you kind of convinced me to peel off and go visit the Chanel booth. No one else in the team was really interested, and I sort of said, "Yeah, all right, let's have a look." And it was just, first of all, the effort that they put in was insane. Like,
yeah, if you'll pardon the French, Chanel at Basel was fucking wild.
It was insanity. Like, it was a whole experience. And I remember that. I think it was the boyfriend that was like, 27 carats of diamonds in it or something silly, or 31 carats of diamonds.
That bracelet that was like engineered by.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. Do you remember the frog? Were you there for the frog?
Yeah.
It's like 4 kilos of gold.
Just incredible. Just, I have a lot of time for Chanel.
Love a good channel. You know what else you love, Andy? Colourful watches.
Yeah, I think this makes the cut, the IWC Big Pilots Watch 43 with the blue dial. I think it's worth a shout for 2021 list. That we've been asking for a long time for a more reasonably sized Big Pilot, a wearable Big Pilot. So at 43 millimeters, look, it's still a little bit big, but It's wearable and it feels,
Oh, that's fine.
it's got some presence, but it is it's nice in the blue dial. I'm really happy to see that it exists.
I think maybe we should have included this as well. The fact that this new one has the quick change system, and I think you can get the
Yep.
rubber straps in quite bright colours. Am I maybe imagining that?
I believe there's the rubber straps. I'm not too sure, but I'm going to
Surely we can make it happen.
I'm going to click the link really quickly and see how long it takes to load. But I believe you can. I believe you can.
And one day, do you think have they ever done green big pilots like that sort of classic racing green? They have, surely. We're going to get a big pilot like that, yeah.
Well, they did the chrono, right? The pilot's chrono recently. Just wasn't that recently announced?
Could well. No, Portofino was just the other week, but
Yep.
are you clicking that link? Getting anything, Andy?
Yeah, I'm looking. I think they've got a green big pilot, but in 46. So I think we might see it in the 43
Yeah, cool.
when they're ready.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a solid one. It's not a trendy green dial yet. Give it a minute. I'm going to stick with my rainbow theme, Andy, if that's okay with you.
Another one.
Yeah. See, that's the main thesis of my Revolution article. Read it in revolution.watch.com at some point in the future. I don't know when it's going up. Is rainbows are turning away from just that straight up gem set. So we're seeing it integrated into other ways, like the Chanel that I just mentioned, even the Cassio's. I think that was a really important thing that turned people on to that rainbow style, is that you could have it affordable. Breitling, the Super Ocean 57. This one I think is really interesting as well. It's the Zenith Defy El Primero 21 limited edition with Philippe Pantone. Now, Mr. Pantone is a contemporary artist who does a lot with color, rainbows, and that sort of really graphic op art style. And I just think there's not a lot of color on it. It's mostly a black watch, and there's a few sort of rainbow elements on the hands, which are those zigzag lightning bolts that are cool in their own right. But there's also a few that sort of multicolored PVD.
Yeah, technicolored.
Yeah, like that plating that looks like it's been heated under a range of different things. So like some of the bridges and plates have that, which I think is quite subtle, especially when you add in the fact that the case has like grid printing on the ceramic bezel, and there's other sort of bold designs in black and white. It comes up as quite a sophisticated and not over the top rainbow. Like, this is not a watch that you would go, whoa, that's really gaudy.
No, this is okay. First of all, remember when the Chronomaster came out, the Sport?
Yes.
And I said, like, why would anyone buy a Zenith that looked like the most iconic Rolex of all time, where Zenith do all of these other really cool and interesting watches?
Yeah,
Bit of a hot
yeah.
take.
Yep.
Come at me in the Discord thread,
Sure.
Discord channel. This is like 27,400 Aussie dollars. You would be crazy to buy a Daytona aftermarket prices over this. Like, this is just, to me, one of the coolest watches I've seen this year.
Yeah, right. And it's got that ridiculous movement that 100th of a second accuracy, which is
look at the power reserve as well. Like, even just the way they've done the power reserve is just really fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's got motion to it. It's exciting. It's fun. Like,
and this is that. I mean, again, we sort of I talk about this in the context of Hublot, artists pushing watch design forward. I think this is another really great example of that.
I mean, I really like this watch. I think this is going to be one of those watches that in 5-10 years' time, people can look back and regret sleeping on a little bit.
Yeah, it's not the only Zenith that's in this list, though, Andy.
Funnily enough, yeah, I had one too. The Chronomaster, Revival Safari, which is the green fella, 37mm case in that those proportions
Titanium,
of the original A384, but green strap, green dial, kind of creamy markers. The case itself is microblasted titanium, which sort of really like leans into that look. In terms of color, I don't think we've had a green one on the list yet, but I think this is certainly one I want to throw in the mix.
Yeah, and I think, you'd be remiss to not talk about green like it's the big color trend of the year, and I think I've got a few examples coming up. But I think the next two, Andy, are not surprisingly sponsored content, because I think you especially have fallen genuinely in love with them.
Yeah, I mean, and we're talking about the Nomos Club campus. We did some work with Nomos earlier this year, so we don't need to go into too much detail. But that Future Orange, which is the bright orange dial, and then the Absolute Grey, which is the grey dial with a little bit of orange. The color and like holding these watches and wearing these watches, they put a smile on your face. Yeah. And I think that's the point of having like a fun and colorful watch. So that is why they have made my contribution to this list so far.
You can't go wrong. They're also now, Andy. I wouldn't have ever said that Nomos Future Orange is a subtle watch.
No.
But compared to the watch that's next in our little PowerPoint of fun, it's a subtle watch.
Yeah, so you mentioned rainbow, you mentioned gaudy. This, I feel, strikes a balance of obnoxiousness,
sure,
watchmaking, and beauty. It is the...
Which is why I think you, off mic, you said earlier, if I had one watch, this could be it.
I believe that this could be a one-watch situation, and here's why.
Beautiful, obnoxious, and gaudy.
The Royal Oak, frosted gold, double balance wheel, open worked. So that is the hammered white gold 37mm case.
Yeah.
It's got the rainbow baguette bezel setting. So there's 32 different baguettes in the bezel, graduating around. Yep. Open work dial, of course. Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. I would just wear the hell out of this, Felix. This would be a watch where it's so special and it's so beautiful and so unique. And yes, it's a little bit outrageous, but I feel like just having this every day would be amazing.
It would. I've said this before about the frosted gold, which I deeply and dearly love. It would play havoc with your cashmere sweaters.
It would destroy them. You know, as I was sort of like looking at photos of this to research a little bit, I really want to see how the case is done because they say hammered.
I can tell you about this.
Oh, tell me.
If you want. So it's the frosted gold technique. It's done by, I believe she's a Florentine jeweler that sort of specialized in it. I don't know if she made it up, came up with it, but I think AP have sort of acquired the rights to using it. It is basically hammered. It's like, are you familiar with tremblage? That sort of pop, 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 pop to get that effect. And yeah, it is literally like hammered thousands and thousands of times. I don't know if it's done using a pneumatic hammer at this point. I think scale, maybe that's the case. But it comes up with a look that looks like, especially on the precious metal, it kind of looks a lot like diamonds, like that sort of really, that crushed diamond vibe. But yeah, it literally is hammered. Like it's just, the soft metal has been given many, many, many beautifully imperfections.
So you'd think that each is unique then?
Sure.
By definition.
Yeah.
Price on request, I certainly can't afford it and I certainly can't get one, but boy, oh boy, what a beautiful watch.
Yeah. I'm sort of wrapping it up here with a bunch of watches. Again, you could have probably all of these watches for the cost of a service on that AP. And I'm sort of going with that green trend again, which, you know, everyone's been making a lot of noise about. Who knows if it translates into sales? One I think that's worth shouting out is the Tahoe Aqua Racer in titanium that we've both sort of had a bit of a look at. Not because it's, you know, green is particularly novel, but it's just a really nicely done version of it. Like the dial has some texture to it. The ceramic bezel is interesting. The yellow is like a little bit of an unusual sort of egg yolky choice. And I think for me, unusual green is where it's at. Like, you get a lot of that sort of, you know, really safe navy blues, and I think we're getting a lot of that sort of safe olive greens. But then you get watches like Breitling did one with a pistachio dial at the start of the year. You could even, at a pinch, sort of put the Bremont Savannah and IWC's Mojave watches into that same sort of category of, they're not green, but they're not that sort of, well, I mean,
you're a sucker for a desert coloured watch, aren't you?
Well, look, you put the bloody Zenith Safari in there. It's the same thing. Like I do. The Bremont especially, I think it's a combination of like tactical and a slightly odd colour choice.
It's fun, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what it's all about. I think we've got to lean into the fun watch colours.
May as well. Stuck dealing with whatever's going on in the world. It's always good to have something nice to look down at your wrist and kind of invoke a smile.
Yeah, and on that note, I think let's get Hublot CEO Ricardo Guadalupe. If you don't know who he is, I mean, Hublot is often associated with Jean-Claude Biver, who certainly sort of found, brought the brand back to prominence. But Mr. Guadalupe has actually been the CEO since 2012, and he's a really, I think, a pivotal figure in it. And yeah, he's got some really interesting things to say about watch design and construction. Let's get him on, Andy.
Let's do it.
Hello, Mr. Guadalupe. How are you?
Very well, and you?
I'm okay. It's been a long day, but I'm sure your day is just beginning, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not sure if you've seen what I wanted to ask you about, but I wanted to speak to you about two things primarily. I wanted to speak to you about color and art. I think Hublot excels in both of those areas. But first, I noticed that a lot of the releases that we've seen in the last 12 months seem to be playing, not just from Hublot, but from the entire watch space, seem to be playing with color. Why do you think that is at the moment?
I think, what we want is always to offer watches that are different, that are unique by their design, by their aesthetic, and we can work either, of course, on the design of the watch with the identity of the Big Bang, for instance. We can work through the colors, and the colors at Hublot, we decided to work on very technological materials like ceramic, and we have been able to come for these watches and wonders with a vivid yellow ceramic. Yeah, we have done this vivid blue as well. We have done the vivid red in 2018. So we work in colors. We can work on bracelets as well, because with rubber, colored rubber, we came with the one click for ladies and 33 millimeters, where we have really worked on the colors, on color straps with different 10 different type of colors, where you can change easily the strap. And even on sapphire, we have been able to come with the orange sapphire beginning of this year. So yeah, the colors are really important to make some differentiation and really to give something particular on the design of the watch.
Absolutely, and I think what I find remarkable is the way you can combine color with that sort of technical expertise. For example, a lot of brands do ceramic, but I don't know that anyone that sort of can manage the vibrancy of, say, your red or your blue or now your yellow ceramic. How do you achieve that? Is it just having very good technical partners?
No, I think in this case, it's really in-house. We have a research and development department which is dedicated to the materials. And of course, on materials, we work a lot with ceramics. We have been, of course, I would say, the first brand to bring the ceramic in the high-end segment of the watch industry in 2006, when we came with our Big Bang all black, so with the black ceramic, which is more. And today we can say that black ceramic is used by most of the brands of the industry, showing that we have been really leaders in the trend and bring this black color as a standard today of the watch industry. And then to be different, we tried to really develop those vivid colors, because we knew that to come with a bright, vivid red is really something very challenging. And we know that there are other brands working on that. And we have been able to find really with engineers in collaboration with the University of Lausanne, a Polytechnical University, also taking people from there in our company to really develop a process where we can have those vivid colors, which is patented. There is a few patented on that, because the secret is a little bit to manage the heat and the pressure, because when you put pigments, if you heat too high, they will burn, so you don't get the color, or you get a tarnish red, for instance. So I think there we have been able in-house to really find the right process to come with those vivid colors. And the red, I would say, has been the most difficult. The yellow coming after, and the blue is a bit less difficult. There are some colors that are a bit less difficult than others, but this vivid yellow, is really difficult to achieve, and it really totally in-house an in-house process.
When you're sort of just talking about that patented process, is it the same process that allows you to achieve that sort of result across colors, or is it a completely different process for red and for blue and for yellow with heating affecting pigments?
No, I would say the the experience that we have had to really find this vivid red has helped us to develop new colors in vivid. So we're in the similar process, and it has been in a way easier because we have done already the work for the red, which seems is really the most difficult color to reach. So after the blue was a bit easier, and the yellow, thanks to the experience on the red, we have been able to achieve this particular color. And we are working on other projects of vivid colors for the future, of course.
Of course, I can't wait to see those. Something else that it's not just ceramics of bright colors that you excel at on the technical side. You've also, I think, quite famously, as I believe you've said, industrialized sapphire. Of course, you're not the first brand to make a sapphire case, but you're the first to make so much of it, I think. And this year, you really blew me away with that completely sapphire bracelet. How many headaches did making that bracelet cause?
Yeah, a lot of headaches. Yeah, sapphire is true. We're not been the first brand to come with a watch in sapphire, but we have been the first brand to industrialize sapphire and to be able to produce a few hundred watches per year since 2016. And not just 5 or 10 pieces. In this case, we have pushed the boundaries because every time you produce one component in sapphire is already a big process. So for the case, we have mainly 5 components to build a case in sapphire. In the movement, we use a tourbillon automatic. We have 3 bridges in sapphire, which is already a nice challenge to really insert, and to add the 22 components for the bracelet has been an incredible challenge because for every component, which are different, it's an industrial process, it's a different toolings, different machines. So it has taken us a really long period of time, and we're working in this case also with an outside partner, a company that really works exclusively for us because the process of sapphire is very important. So in this case, the result is quite amazing. And I have the watch here. And altogether is 30 components made of sapphire. But the bracelet, as I said, you have 22 links in sapphire, but altogether is 165 components to assemble this bracelet, because we had to also study the construction of the bracelet, because as you know, sapphire is a very hard material, is the hardest material, but at the same time is a bit fragile because under pressure, it can break under an important pressure. So to build the bracelet, to put the screws, to have the right move of the links on the wrist, we have done all the tested, and for a normal use, I would say it's okay. But the result is amazing.
And of course, is it, to your knowledge, is it the first fully sapphire bracelet on the market?
I would say no. I must be honest. There is Chanel who came, I think, 1 or 2 years ago with a full bracelet, but it was more a high jewelry piece, and they will produce only, I think, 20 pieces or I don't remember, 18 pieces. But our approach is different because it's more a watchmaking piece, not a jewelry watch. In our case, where we have also a complication, a tourbillon automatic. So I would say it's really a totally different piece, and is, I would say, in this case, more dedicated to men, and maybe the one from Chanel was more dedicated to women in this case.
Of course, stunning. One other thing that I sort of wanted to speak to you about, and I think it's what excites me a lot about Hublot, either when I see your partnerships or when I see the watches that result in it, is your relationship with creative and fine artists. Hublot Loves Art is, I believe, something that's sort of very close to your own heart. How does that happen? And what is it about art and Hublot that just sort of ticks? Yeah,
I think innovation and creativity is something very important for Hublot. and we must always come with watches that are surprising, that are astonishing, that are really aspirational. And with art, we did some experiences, and at a certain point, I said to myself, why we couldn't be inspired by not only the watchmaking art, but by art from other fields. So Sang Bleu is the tattoo art. So tattoo is a very particular art. And I thought that when I met Maxime Pleschia-Büchi, who is the founder of Sang Bleu, that his art was really inspiring, and I think could be really adapted to a watch. And the graphics that he's designing, and there is even a picture behind me. And And we really put his art into a watch, but not just doing a dial with the design of the graphic, but really including this graphic in the technical side of the watch. So the hands are inspired by this graphic. The case is the three-dimensional approach. And at the end, the aesthetic of the watch is really, the watch becomes really a piece of art, an object of art. And I mean, the result is really incredible, because at the end we see consumers loving that particular model, that particular watches inspired by artists. So in this case, Sang Bleu, but also we have been seeing the Murakami in January. That has been a huge success. The Shepard Fairey, lastly, pop art, street art artist, and of course also Richard Orlinski with the sculptures. So we always also choose an artist which is renowned, which make really particular art, but also an art that we can interpret in a watch. So like we can have this fusion, and we see that there is really, I believe now, a trend that we have created, that being inspired by the world of art is something really particular, and at the end has an incredible success also commercially.
What I find most interesting, like the Big Bang and the Classic Fusion, they're an incredible sort of platform and very versatile. But those collaborative pieces between Orlinski and with Sang Bleu, and more recently, like you said, with Murakami, they push it to the next. They evolve what the Big Bang can be, to my mind. Do you find that beyond that sort of specific product collaboration, Hublot's design team or creative team working with artists, does it push them as well beyond just that, one limited edition perhaps?
Yes, absolutely. It brings really a new world, something that open our eyes to not only thinking about our watch industry, and to go outside the box, I would say, and to be able that we can really create some incredible timepieces that at the end, a mechanical watch, we believe is a piece of art, and it can be inspired by the watchmaking art and by other arts. And we are working on that, and we have also different projects going on in this specific world. And we will surprise probably also with new partnership in the future, and we will and it will help us to give also some design evolution to our I would say more core collection.
I can't wait to see what they are. Now, I understand you've probably got somewhere to, another interview to have in a few minutes, but I've just got one more question. And that is, of course, Hublot are also acknowledged as very, very good at marketing and doing those sort of partnerships that leverage the brand in, surprising ways, like with artists. I wonder, sports teams, big tournaments, celebrities, that's pretty expected from a ambassador or sort of perspective. Were you surprised at the response to partnering with artists who maybe have a high profile in a very specific field? But honestly, I'd not heard about Maxime Pleschia-Büchi until Hublot got involved, and the same with Shepard Fairey. How do you find the reach that they offer from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, the idea is with our different partnership is to be able to have a different reach. Of course, with football, soccer, which is an important partnership for us with the FIFA World Cup. There, we talk more brand awareness. We touch millions, even billions of people, that at the end, for us, if they know that Hublot is a watch brand, is already something very positive.
That's
With
a win.
artists, I think we have a new brand reach where, I would say we choose Maxime Pleschia because we wanted to enter in this tattoo world, because you know that tattoo is also very fashionable today. But of course, maybe some people they don't want to have a tattoo because the tattoo is for a lifetime, and like me, for instance. But we're interested by this approach, this art. So of course, we did a choice about Maxime Pleschia. Could have been another tattoo artist, but I met him. He's a Swiss guy living in London now, in Los Angeles, and of course, with that, we believe that we had a new brand reach of consumer that will not maybe come to the brand Hublot, and thanks to these really particular products, they came to us. With Murakami, the same. Murakami is known in his case, even maybe at the same level of Hublot, or even more, is internationally known. And in this case, he brought us again new consumers that said, we knew Hublot, but thanks to that watch, we are coming to you. So the idea is always to have a new brand reach through those partnerships.
Well, I can't wait to see where you go with art next. I'm really excited by it. But thank you so much for your time, and enjoy the rest of Watches and Wonders.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye, Mr. Guadalupe.
Well, Felix, what a chat. Shame I missed out on it, but thank you to Mr. Guadalupe and the team from Hublot Australia for hooking that up. Felix, as we said at the start of the show, t-shirts are available via the show notes or our website. Hit our Instagram up, ot.podcast. Join our Discord channel. Again, that's all linked up. I can't remember what our email is, Felix.
otthepodcast@gmail.com.
Boom. And if you like OT, subscribe, tell your friends, neighbours, sisters, brother, and of course,
Yelp.
5-star reviews. Yelp. Reddit,
Zomato.
maybe we need to invade Reddit.
Yeah, we should, but we're not allowed
Get
to
in
do
there.
that. We've got to get the community to do it for us.
Community. Assemble. We'll see you next time.
Let's get it.